Hello, I'm Carl French from the Endless Bookcase, a publisher, and I'm delighted to say that we've got an opportunity for an interview with Jackie Jarvis, the walking business coach, who is the author of a fabulous book, in my view, called Go Slow to Grow. And when Jackie comes on, I'm going to ask her to flash her book in front of us so we can see the cover. But there it is, woo! So here we go. So Go Slow to Grow is the title of the book. I think personally that it's something of value at any time, but we're going to look at one or two things to do with the current lockdown. But a good place to start would be to ask Jackie if she could kindly explain what is meant by Go Slow to Grow. So Jackie, what is Go Slow to Grow? What does it mean?
A great question, Carl. Thanks for having me. Really, going slow to grow really is my way of saying it's giving yourself time to press pause on your life, on your busy life, and to mentally, emotionally, and sometimes physically create the space for yourself really to do some thinking. And through that thinking, that gives you an opportunity to make changes that could be very positive in your life and also in your business. So it really is about using some time, creating some space, and giving yourself that opportunity to move forward as a result of it. Okay.
And so, following on from that, who would you say needs your book? You could say everyone, but who in particular needs your book, would you say?
Well, I think we could probably all recognise that sense of sometimes feeling overloaded, of going too fast in our life, living very hectic, busy, high-pressured existences when we have that distinct feeling that we really like to press pause on our lives. And I suppose, it relates to people who probably would describe themselves as workaholics. They're always on the go, always very busy. Or it could be really anyone, male or female, who is, living a fairly high-pressured life in some aspect, can't seem to give themselves permission to slow down, and is always on the go, always on the hamster wheel, never really truly relaxing or pressing pause on their existence.
So breaking that pattern is obviously a challenge for a lot of people. Apart from reading your book, which is the obvious thing they should do, how can somebody actually get started, would you say?
What you mean, getting started to go slow to grow?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. What do they do?
Well, I think the first thing really is, I think in a way you've got to recognise that you are feeling overloaded, stressed, and maybe not as happy as you would ideally like to be. And I think when we're all running too fast, doing too much, you sometimes numb yourself to really feeling your life, really connecting with what really truly makes you happy. And also, if you're running a business, when you're busy doing all the time, you sometimes just don't see the things that you could do to make things better or different, and lighten the load that you're carrying. And I think a lot of us operate like that. So I think the first thing is to recognise when this is happening to you. And I think certainly from my experience of the recent lockdown, that was really interesting, because it's almost been a press pause on all of our lives in some way. I know lots of people have different experiences of what lockdown has meant, and many people are in lots of different situations, but generally a massive great press pause has been put on all of our lives. We can't go shopping in the same way, we can't overload our social diaries in the way that we used to. In some cases, work and contracts have been taken away, so we can't do those. We may have other things to do, but essentially, lots of the things that we used to do in our life, we can't. So in many ways, the rucksack that many people have been carrying, metaphorically speaking, has been lightened, and they will be experiencing something quite different, like you and I have been. We may be still doing things, and I know you mentioned earlier that you were quite busy, but we're not doing the same things that we used to, and there has been a natural break in our lives, which for many people has given them a chance to reflect and think and maybe make choices to do things differently. So I don't know if that answers the question, because I think in the first place, when you're very busy, you can become very numb, and you don't realize that possibly half the things you're doing or paying attention to, you don't really need to be doing. That makes sense. And so sometimes it has to be taken away for you to realize something different or make different choices. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It certainly does to me, and I think it will to anybody listening to this. And I think you've highlighted what was going to be another question in a sense, which is what stops people, because there are things you mentioned that get in the way of people stopping and thinking about what changes they need to make. So I think the next thing really to ask you in a sense is what in terms of an example, what are you actually doing yourself during lockdown to deal with the whole issue of go slow to grow?
Well, I think initially, because if anyone reads my book, they'll understand, how I'm fairly typical of a, always pushing, always driving, always busy person that eventually one day decided that I needed to press pause on my life and give myself some serious reflection time, and potentially to let go of a lot of the things that I felt weren't working for me in my life, and hence heard and listened to my voice of slow, which is the message in the book. And so when the lockdown first started, obviously like many of us, I experienced that being a walking business coach. Many of my clients didn't want to go walking. They couldn't. They weren't able to. And then many of them were in such a panic state, that they almost wanted to put many things on hold. So a lot of my work was put on hold. And then other clients that I was working with, needed quite a bit of support. So I almost initially got into that place where I was overloaded myself. I started thinking, my God, I've got so much to do. I've got to sort this out, I've got to do that. My head was all over the place, like a lot of people's heads were. It was such a shock that I probably went into overdrive initially. And then I realized after a while that all I was doing was going back to old patterns. Things were taken away, and when things were taken away, I pushed harder. And I realized that actually that was something that I couldn't actually do in this situation. So gradually over a period of time, I decided that it was a sign, and it was a sign to press pause and to really have a rethink about how I was operating as a business. We do something called natural networking, myself and a partner, and we gave ourselves quite a bit of time to really rethink the model, how it was working, what we needed to do differently, and how we could develop it going forward. So we spent quite a bit of time on strategic thinking. And then I also decided that I would give myself that personal pause. So I have a bit of a routine to my day, and I make sure I do quite a bit of exercise, quite a bit of personal reflection time, quite a bit of reading. And so I'm practicing when I'm preaching, really. and also and also managing my mental and emotional state, because I think during these unprecedented times, as we all know, there's we all have quite a lot of ups and downs, good days and bad days. So I'm very aware of that, and do quite a bit to manage my own mental and emotional well-being with meditation and yoga, and managing internal dialogue and all the sort of things that I write about in the book. I actively practice and feel pretty good, actually. I've quite enjoyed the peace, love my walks, and probably I think I create quite a good balance now, where I'm focused on work to make sure that things are going to go well in the future, and also relaxing and having some balance in my day to make sure that emotionally, physically and spiritually that I'm in a good place. So that's what I do, really.
Okay. What comes across to me is that it's the old saying about practice. You do practice what you preach, and I think anybody watching this would get ideas of what they probably need to do and maybe think, well, during this lockdown, I really do need to make some changes. But in terms of a bit of focus here, do you have some sort of top tips for people watching this to help them start making the changes that they need to make? What would your tips be?
I think first and foremost would be, it depends on your own personal situation, but nobody can keep their foot pressed on the accelerator full bore all the time before they, start to suffer from stress. So I would say recognize that you do need to look after yourself, and that you are important in your life and also in your business. And to do things maybe to create some balance in your day, so have a little think about giving it some structure. I think a lot of people that I talk to, have either an early morning walk or an evening walk, or do something where, you break the pattern of the day in some way. So making sure that you do some exercise of some sort, something you enjoy, whether it's a walk, a run, or it might be some gardening. It might be that you also give yourself some space to do something creative. I know in this lockdown period, lots of people have been doing much more creative things like baking and sewing and all this sort of thing, and reading books that they haven't read for ages. So really, use the time to do something, natural, something that you enjoy. It might be something that you want to learn, like the guitar or another language or something, different, that would take your mind off what's going on, and also your work and what's happening or not happening, as the case may be. If you're a business, running a business, it's a great opportunity, whether you've got work or not. It's a great way to really spend some time reflecting on what you really need in your business to make it successful going forward. I use a rucksack metaphor. Before you might have felt completely and utterly overloaded, and you were forced to let go of many things during this period. But what would be most important to put back into that rucksack going forward? What do you really want to carry, and what is comfortable to carry? And therefore, what changes could you make to the business and the way you operate it that would mean you might be carrying less, but you might be leaner, fitter, more agile, and ultimately maybe more profitable and successful? And I think that takes a lot of thinking through. And hopefully I'll be doing some of that walking and talking with some of my clients after this period of lockdown. And I've certainly been doing that myself. So really thinking about what you want going forward, and using this press pause to give you that time and space to do that. So I think those are some useful tips. Take the time. We're never going to get this, well, hopefully we won't get it again if we don't have a rerun, but I think there's peace in the air. If you go for a walk and you really listen almost to the silence that there is in the air, there's this kind of really nice sense of peace, and nature has come into itself. It's blooming, summer, coming into the summer. And I think, rather than focusing on what could go wrong, trying to live in the present moment and go, what, this is good. I'm okay. I'm healthy. The sun's shining. The birds are singing. And I can connect with where I am and what I'm doing, and be grateful for that. I think, because if you are in that position, actually that's a lot. And there's a lot of people who aren't in that position. So be grateful for what you do have and what is in the present moment. And I think that's something that every day I reflect on, and it certainly will lift your feeling of happiness and the value you place on your own life.
Well, yeah, that was really good, really interesting, Jackie. I think we probably ought to try to wrap up now. I think one of the things that really comes across is how many facets there are to what you've covered in Go Slow to Grow. And may sound contrived, but it isn't. It's just that I think the thing is that the way to get into what you're talking about is to work through the book. It's got a sequence to it, and I think anybody taking a look at the book will see that it's practical and provides guidance and so on. So let's sort of just make sure we've given everybody enough information on this. The book is available on all good outlets, but in particularly the endersbookcase.com, put a link to that. But people might also like to contact you. So what is the best way for people watching this to make contact with you, Jackie? You've got.
Okay, well, if anyone would like to make contact on LinkedIn, I can be found on LinkedIn. I call myself the Walking Business Coach, or you could look at my website, which is walkingbusinesscoach.com, and I'm happy to connect on any of the social media channels. I do post quite a bit of what I call my reflections and things. They're quite interesting on Instagram and Facebook. So quite happy to connect with anybody, and yeah, that's it really.
Great. And you know, for anybody again watching this, you know, there's lots of free material there which will give even more of a taste of what's on offer in Go Slow to Grow, and hopefully some of the people watching this will be able to make that change that they want to make in their lives and start working on what we've been talking about. So that's probably it for now. Thank you ever so much indeed for agreeing to this interview. I've enjoyed it tremendously, and we've seemed to have covered a huge amount of ground. I hope we haven't gone on too long. So let's wrap it up there. Thank you very much, Jackie. Just hold your book up once more just before we finish. Go Slow to Grow, Jackie Jarvis. There we are. That's the one to get. Right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.